السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، كل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قد أمر ربكم أن تصلوا على حبيبه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Brothers, Jazakumullahu khairan wa ahsan al-jazaa for coming this evening to listen to some advice by perhaps the greatest scholar of this ummah, and that is Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali rahimahullah. I would love to talk about his life, but I know we've got a short time, so I will not talk about his biography, because his life itself has got so many lessons we can learn from it. And it's a beautiful period where we can take enormous benefit. So I'm not really going to talk about his biography. It's available in English, a lot of books on it. A lot of people have studied his life, Muslim and non-Muslim. But he was someone who was given the title Hujjatul Islam. It's a deep title, Hujjatul Islam. That means it translates roughly as the proof of Islam. That means if someone wanted to show how Islam was true, they'll say, go to Imam al-Ghazali, read his books. That was his title, Hujjatul Islam. The proof of Islam. The one who showed the evidence that Islam is true. So he was the greatest scholar, and he was also a mujaddid. That's another big word, mujaddid. What does that mean, in case you're thinking, what is this mujaddid? Mujaddid, in generally, just basically in English here, means someone who brings something back alive. Now what did Imam Ghazali do? What, bring dead people back alive? No, it wasn't that. You see, when parts of Islam dies away, when parts of Islam dies away, people don't practice it anymore. Yeah, when parts of Islam disappear because people don't do it anymore, Allah sends someone to renew and give new life to that part which died. So let's just say a part of a sunnah disappears, Allah will send every century someone to come along and renew that part of the religion again, give it new life. إن الله يبعث لهذه الأمة على رأس كل 100 سنة من يجدد لها دينها. Every 100 years, whether at the beginning or at the end, but every 100 years, Allah sends a mujaddid, a renewer, to renew the deen of Islam. To renew the deen of Islam, to give it new life, to water the parts that perhaps had faded away so it grows again. And the mujaddid, the one who renewed Islam in lots of parts, was Imam al-Ghazali. He was a mujaddid, someone of that age who brought Islam again back from the brink, someone who brought it back from the brink. So he is one of the greatest scholars, and I advise you all to go and study his books if you can, if you know anyone who's teaching it, to learn from them, to read about it yourself as well, inshallah. So Imam al-Ghazali wrote hundreds of books, but a lot of them are like really philosophical. They're for, like, you know, people who study a lot, people who've got a high level of knowledge. Yeah, people got a high level of knowledge. But sometimes Imam al-Ghazali writes books so for people like us, so we can read it and learn a lesson. And what happened one day, one of his students wrote to him and said, Sheikh, I want some advice. You know, we always ask brothers, give me some advice, bro. What do you do? I want to learn Arabic, I want to learn Islam. Give me some advice. Same thing with Imam al-Ghazali. One of his students wrote to him and said, Sheikh, give me some advice. what can you do? What can you do for me? What knowledge can you give me? Then Imam al-Ghazali wrote a reply in a little book to advise his student. And it was called Ayyuha al-Walad al-Muhibb. Oh my dear disciple or student, oh my beloved student. He wrote back, and that's the title of the book, Ayyuha al-Walad. Yeah, oh student. Oh student. He wrote a little letter to him. Not a little letter, a little booklet. And today I want to take some of this advice that he'd given to his student in that booklet and share it with you, so then we can take some lessons. So we can take some lessons to help us in this modern day and age where we find difficulty living with Islam. It's not easy, we're struggling with it, all of us. It's hard living here with Islam. Yeah, and many of the brothers have talked about other issues that affect us. Other issues that affect us. We're young. Including me, we're young. Yeah? A lot of us still in school, college, university even. Yeah, so it's difficult. The environment we're in is difficult. So alhamdulillah, let's go through some advice that Imam al-Ghazali, remember there's lots of advice in that book, but I only managed to pluck out 5 because of time's constraint. Yeah, we're going to go through 5 very, very quickly. And we draw some, inshaAllah, benefit from it, and then later on we can open up for your comments and questions. Yeah. The first advice. Imam al-Ghazali says, وَكَذَا لَوْ قَرَأَ رَجُلٌ 100,000 مَسْأَلَةٍ عِلْمِيَّةٍ وَتَعَلَّمَهَا وَلَمْ يَعْمَلْ بِهَا لَا تُفِيدُهُ إِلَّا بِالْأَعْمَلِ. He goes, look, says to his student, look, even if you read 100,000 books and talk about this philosophically and talk about that philosophically, you're trying to be intellectual, that's not going to benefit you one bit. Except, or unless you act on what you know. So you could, there are some of us youth, that some of them like to read a lot, that's good. But all they like to do is just debate. Just discuss, debate, argue. Show them that they know some word, they drop it in an argument. They know some Arabic words, they throw it in there. That's all they know. They don't really act on what they know. But they want to show people that, look, I read a lot. Bounce around some big terms, yeah? More than 2 syllables, hard to understand. Imam Ghazali goes, if you're one of those people, it doesn't matter if you read 1,000 books. It doesn't matter if you discussed 1,000 issues. If you don't act on your knowledge, it's not going to benefit you one bit. It's not going to benefit you one bit. You can show people you know this and you read that encyclopedia and you read that book. Yeah? But it's not going to benefit you one bit unless you act on it. Unless you act on it. Because what you know, you're supposed to act on it. What you know, you're supposed to act on it. Otherwise you become inconsistent. You know something's true. You know something's right. You know you're supposed to do something, but then you don't act on it. And then you go around telling people and argue with them like you know it. What's the point in that? That's not going to benefit you one iota, one bit whatsoever. So the one advice Imam Ghazali gives to his students says, if you're going to learn knowledge, you better act on what you know. لا تفيده إلا بالعلم. Your knowledge, you never benefit through your knowledge, except if you act on it. And it's very unfortunate if we have knowledge, ilm, but Allah doesn't give us the tawfiq or the ability to act on it. That's 0. That means nothing. You have knowledge, but it doesn't trickle down. It's all in here. It's all in here, but it doesn't trickle down into your heart and make your limbs move. What's the point of knowing everything's right? Yeah, I know this is halal, this is haram. I know the fiqh. I study fiqh. I study hadith. I study aqidah. What's the point? If it's not going to make you move and act to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, that's not 0, that's minus. That's minus. Yeah, so that's one of the first advice Imam Ghazali gives. Your knowledge, you act on it. You act on what you know to be consistent. To be a consistent person. Then he gives another piece of advice. He says, أيها الولد. He goes, oh my son, oh my student, العلم بلا عمل جنون والعمل بغير علم لا يكون. He goes, knowledge without action, you're mad. It's madness. And action without knowledge can never be. if you have knowledge and you don't have action, that knowledge doesn't benefit you. And if you have actions, you do things, but you don't know why you're doing it, you don't have knowledge, what's the point of that? You need both. I'll give you an example. You need both. Imagine like we're praying, we're fasting, we're buying and selling. If we don't have knowledge, we don't even know if we're doing it correctly. We don't even know what will break our salah, what will break our fast. We don't even know that in case we buy something, it's haram, we're not allowed to buy it. Unless we have knowledge. We might say things and do things without knowledge, thinking that is right. You know, some people, you know, they say, yeah, look, you know what, yeah, I'll come to Islam, I'll come to the deen, I'll practice the deen soon. But I'm alright now, you know, at least I'll go Jummah Fridays. But that's not enough. He thinks that's enough Islam. When Ramadan comes, I'll fast. Maybe I'll do Hajj later on in my life when I get older. No, he thinks he's doing something right, but he doesn't have knowledge. He thinks going to Jum'ah is going to be enough. He thinks praying one time here, one time there is enough. It's not enough. Because he doesn't have knowledge. He doesn't know that he's supposed to pray 5 times a day. That Allah is watching everything he's doing. He's going to be accountable. So knowledge and actions have to be joined together. For us to have an Islamic personality, we need our mind, our mentality to be based on Islam, and our behavior to be based on Islam. If our behavior is Islamic, but we're thinking un-Islamically, how is that? If we're thinking Islamically, but we're behaving un-Islamically, how is that? It's a contradiction, isn't it? You can't have both. You have an inconsistent personality. Can you see? So, amal and ilm have to be joined together. You can't get one without the other. You can't live your life worshipping Allah, but you don't know why you're worshipping Him. You don't know if you're worshipping Him correctly or incorrectly. Can you see? And it's not enough just to have knowledge but not to act. How can someone have knowledge of Allah but not want to worship Him and act on it? Yeah? So we've got to be consistent. So the second advice is العلم بلا عمل جنون والعمل بغير علم لا يكون. To have knowledge without actions is madness. And he uses that word junoon, it's crazy to think that. And to have actions without knowledge can never be. You can never have actions without knowledge, yeah? Proper actions, that is. Alright, the third piece of advice. The third piece of advice, yeah, amongst many. I've only plucked out a few. We know that ibadah is important. Worshipping Allah is important. Yeah? Now, we can all philosophize every day. We can talk about politics every day. We can talk about this hadith. Is it sahih? Is it hasan? Is it authentic? Is it good? Is it da'if? We can talk about all the details of fiqh until, you know, the late hours of the morning. Yeah? We may not benefit from it. We may not benefit from it. And Imam Ghazali gives a quote. He gives a quote from one of the greatest scholars. Abu al-Qasim al-Junayd al-Baghdadi, one of the early Sufis, but one of the greatest scholars. What did he say? Listen to this statement, it's beautiful. And he was a man who reached the highest level. He reached the highest level. If there's any such thing as like glowing with spirituality, this man was it. He reached the highest level. What did he say? He says, we discussed philosophy, we discussed religion, we talked about poetry, we talked about deep stuff. Then he says, وَمَا نَفَعْنَا إِلَّا رُكَيْعَاتٍ رَكَعْنَاهَا جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. But we didn't benefit from that one bit except إِلَّا رُكَيْعَاتٍ, except the little salah we used to do at night time, the 2 rak'at extra prayers we used to do at night time. That's what we benefited from. Meaning ibadah, worship, being in the moment of worship, being engaged in worship. You can philosophize all day. You can talk about this book and that book. Unless you're actually engaged in worshipping Allah, unless you're actually doing it, there's no benefit. Now, how does this apply to us? You know, different people like different things. The youth as well, they like different things. Some youth love partying, socializing, hanging around their mates. Some people like that. Yeah. Some people are Xbox boys, PlayStation boys. Yeah. Evolution Pro all night. Whatever it's called, yeah? I'm sure there's some game called a football game anyway, by the way, FIFA, yeah? Whatever it's called. They play that all night. Or COD, yeah, I know that one. Yeah, Call of Duty, I know that one. Yeah, they play that all night. Some people are studious, they study all day, they don't care about anything else, they're just in their books. Yeah, Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday. All week, 7 days a week, they just study. Different people like doing different things. Yeah? Different people preoccupy their time with different things. They spend a lot of time doing these things. Such that the ibadah, it goes down. The worship of Allah goes down. They cut down on reciting the Quran. They cut down on the extra namaz, extra salah which they do. They cut down on extra dhikr. They cut down on extra durood. They cut down on extra actions, helping their mum, their family, the community, da'wah. All that goes down. For some people, it disappears. It disappears. Now all that time, obviously Islam says there's not a problem to play games. You're allowed to enjoy yourself, to hang out with your mates, yeah? There's nothing wrong with that. But if it means your priorities, like your prayer, you're learning Islamic knowledge, helping your parents, yeah? If these kind of things start to get less and less, decrease, then we got our priorities the wrong way around. And that's what Imam al-Junayd is talking about. He says, yes, you've got to learn your aqeedah, you've got to learn about your deen. But if that means there's no ibadah, you're not doing any actions, then it's not going to benefit you. That's why he said, وَمَا نَفَعَنَا إِلَّا رُكَيْعَاتٍ رَكَعْنَاهَا جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. We did all this, but all we benefited from was the taste of ibadah when we were at night time doing that extra salah. We benefited from that more. Meaning they loved the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the mentality. But as youth today, you know, we spend a lot of time at school. Yeah, we're studying a bit. Yeah. Then we get home, we waste time. We waste time. We waste a lot of time. And that could be through social networking sites as well, like Facebook, whatever it is. Yeah. Obviously these things, I'm not saying these things are haram. I'm just saying it's about prioritizing. How many times have we up late at night praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Him for forgiveness? And tasting that. And tasting that. Yeah? So, this is the thing. It's about prioritizing. It's about prioritizing. And I know some of our youth find this issue of, you know, doing extra prayer, ibadah, as like something uncool. He must be a boring person. He must be a what else does he do at night time? I bet he's got no life. All he does is do ibadah all day. And they got this perception that it's uncool to do ibadah. Anyway, who cares if you think it's uncool, first of all, yeah? This is worshipping Allah. If you think it's uncool, it's up to you. But Allah's commanded us. Yeah, but you're assuming the person's uncool. I challenge you to meet some of these brothers even here. Or come here and set the da'wah up here. I'll see if anyone can say they're uncool. Yeah? The issue is it's a misperception we've got. It's a misperception. Yeah? We've got this idea that if we do private ibadah, we're somehow, this is funny. Ooh, it's a bit weird. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Can you see? We've got that perception. But we've got to break that perception. Because Islam teaches us there's times when you do ibadah together, like in a mosque. And there are times when you've got to do ibadah by yourself at night time. Or in the corner of a mosque. There are times you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that. Just you and Allah. Just you and your thoughts and Allah. You have to do it. Yeah? So this is another piece of advice Imam Ghazali gives. Then he gives another advice, and this is so important. He says to his student, "I'lam, no. I'm telling you, no. إن الطاعة والعبادة متابعة الشارع في الأوامر والنواهي بالقول والفعل." He says, "Oh my student, i'lam, know, أن الطاعة والعبادة, that obeying Allah and worshipping Allah, متابعة الشارع, it has to agree with the Sharia. It has to agree with the Sharia. في الأوامر والنواهي, in what Allah has commanded you and what Allah has told you to stay away from. بالقول والفعل, in word and in actions." What a beautiful statement. What a beautiful statement. If you truly want to worship Allah, and you truly want to obey him and follow what he said, his commands, it has to agree with the Sharia. بِالْقَوْلِ وَالْفِعْلِ. Don't just say it. Don't just claim to say, yeah, I'm Muslim and I follow Islam. بِالْقَوْلِ وَالْفِعْلِ. Through your words, what you say to people and what you do. With what you say and what you do. But if we look at today, because we're living in a society, a lot of our youth have taken another criterion instead of the Sharia. Maybe they've taken what their mates say. What their mates do, they follow that. My mate's doing that, I want to follow him. Because he's my fam, innit? He's my fam. Alright, he's your fam, but can you not ask your family, why is he doing that? Why is he doing something he's not supposed to do? Can you see? So it's got to be in line with the Sharia. So some people, the youth, follow their mates. Yeah, they follow their mates. Some people follow their culture. They follow their culture. They don't know if their culture is right or wrong, but they just follow it. Maybe because they learned it from the parents, their grandparents and so on, yeah? I'm not saying all cultural practices are bad. I'm just saying we've got to question what we're following and who we're following and why we're following them. Some people just follow what the society is doing, what generally the society is doing. I don't really think, but most people do this, so I'm going to go along with that anyway. They don't really question it. Well, everyone else is doing it. I want to do it. Some people take their own mind as a criterion. Well, what I think is right, I'm going to follow that. What I think is wrong, I want to leave that. What I think, what my mind tells me. Some people follow their heart. Follow your heart. Whatever it tells you, follow that. If it tells you this is good, follow it. If it tells you stay away from it, don't follow it. Some people follow their desires. They just want to get their jollies. They want to follow their desire. Whatever it is, whatever standard we take, Imam Ghazali says, all this is not going to count for anything. You have to bring your words and your actions in accordance with the Sharia. This is the true ta'ah, worship and ibadah of Allah, following Allah and ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? True worship can only come if we take the Sharia as our standard. Any other Sharia, any other standard, any other criterion, any other rules is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And just as a side point, actually, if true worship is only achievable through following the Sharia, we need to think a bit widely and see, where is the Sharia today? It's absent in our lives. The Sharia might be alive in some individual aspects, yeah, like prayer, wearing clothes, yeah, fasting, other things like that. But where is it in society? Where is it in our lives in an overall way? Where is it? It's not. It's absent in our lives. It's absent on a social level, on a societal level. It's absent in our jobs, in our employment. It's absent in our economics. It's absent in our politics. It's absent in our court systems, our judiciary. It's absent. The Sharia is absent in all the systems. That's why if you look at the Muslim world, look at us, we're so politically disunited. Even though we're just, millions and millions of people just meant to Hajj, where they were doing things together, unity. But when they come back, they're separated by borders, by different nationalities. We're politically disunited. We've been attacked. We've been oppressed. Look what's happening in Syria. Killing Muslims every day. It's still going on. Egypt is still flared up again. Young people coming out in the streets. Most of it's young people coming out against what these governments are doing. We're being, as I said, attacked, oppressed. We're suffering from economic impoverishment, poverty. Look at Somalia, look at parts of Africa still. Poverty. All these problems, they're here because of the Sharia is absent from our lives. The solution that Allah has given us to live by is not there. It's not there. So when Imam Ghazali is talking about you've got to live your life with the Sharia, with the standard of the Sharia, where is that Sharia in life? We need to think about and ask ourselves that question. How did the Muslim Ummah come to a point when there's no Sharia in our lives? On a system level. And how can we change that? Something to think about, brothers. How can we change that? Yeah? Fifth article, or fifth advice. He says, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. وَزْنُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ قَبْلَ أَن تُوزَنُوا. He says, account yourself before Allah accounts you. Measure your actions before it's too late and you're measured and it's too late. Hasabu. Account yourself. Check yourself. Before Allah checks you on Yawm al-Qiyamah and it's too late. Weigh your actions. Check your actions. How are they? What standard are you following when you're doing your actions? Is it the halal and the haram criteria? Or are you taking some other criteria? Do that before Allah measures it for you and it's too late. It's too late. On that day on Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's too late. Can't say to Allah, quickly send me back to the dunya just for one day, please. So I can do one good action. It's too late. Hasabu. Qabla an tuhasabu. Account yourself. Check yourself. Before you are checked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah when it's too late. When Allah will sit as the mighty judge and He'll decide how everyone, what everyone's fate is. What everyone's fate is. Who's going to end up where. He goes, account yourself. Which means it's advice to prepare for ourselves in this dunya. To make this dunya a time where we prepare for ourselves. Become isti'adad al-maut. To prepare for death. To prepare for death. What state, what hal, what condition is my qalb, my heart in? What condition is my heart in? What condition is my mind in? How am I going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is a reminder to myself. Reminder to this wretched soul first. Before it's a reminder to anyone. So we can see how we can prepare, what some actions we can do to prepare for that at the end, insha'Allah. So these are some 5 general advice. The first advice that I mentioned was that Imam al-Ghazali says that it doesn't matter how much you study, doesn't matter how much you study, how many books you study, how many topics of religion and aqeedah and fiqh you discuss and talk about, that is not going to benefit you until you act on what you know. And this is what the Sahaba were amazing at. What they knew, they acted on. They didn't just carry it in their heads. They acted on what they knew. The second thing is to have knowledge and action, both together. There's no point being a walking encyclopedia but you're not acting on it. There's no point just doing any old action and you don't know why you're doing it. That doesn't make us consistent people. That doesn't make us consistent people. In fact, that makes us imbalanced. Yeah, it makes us imbalanced. The third advice, you can talk about fiqh and aqeedah and hadith and everything under the sun technically, yeah, which scholar said what, which imam said what, yeah, that is not going to benefit anyone anything unless you taste ibadah, unless you taste it by doing the ibadah at night time or by yourself. Unless you taste it, you've got to taste the ibadah. You've got to taste the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 4, if you truly want to worship Allah and obey Him and follow Him and fulfill His commands, you can only do that if everything you do is brought in line with the Sharia or agrees with the Sharia. In word and in deed. From what you say and what you do. All this has to be in line with the Sharia. And the 5th one, account yourself. Check yourself. Ask yourself, what state am I in? Am I in a healthy spiritual state? Or am I not in a healthy spiritual state? And which state do I want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with? Alright, very quickly, I'm just going to rush through action plan. What is it that we can do? What is it that our youth can do then? Having taken this advice. Again, Imam al-Ghazali mentions a wonderful riwayah, a wonderful narration from Shaqiq al-Balkhi, one of the earlier Salaf, one of the ascetics, one of the great spiritual masters, yeah? This is what he said. He had about 7, 8 advice, but I'm only going to mention one. He says the following. He says, إِنِّي نَظَرْتُ إِلَى الْخَلْقِ. He says, I watch people. I observe people. See what they do. He says, فَرَأَيْتُ لِكُلِّ مِنْهُمْ مَحْبُوبًا مَعْشُوقًا يُحِبُّهُ وَيَعْشُقُهُ. He says, I saw people, I observed them, I watched them. And I found them And I found people will always love someone and like someone. They always find someone close to them. Whether it's their mate, their partner, whoever. People always like someone, and they love someone. They find someone, they always keep someone close. They want to be close with someone. He goes, I observe people, and I found that about them. This is what he says. بعض ذلك المحبوب يصاحبه إلى مرض الموت وبعضه يصاحبه إلى شفير القبر. Then he says, some of these people who they love will be with them when they're really ill. You'll be with them when they're really ill. When you're really ill, your mates come around and see you. If you're married, your wife, of course, is going to be your family. People close to you will come and see you when you're ill. Some people will even be with you in your grave, in the sense that they will lower you in your grave. If your friend dies, you're going to pray janazah for him, inshallah. And then you're going to lower him in your grave. You're going to be one of those people who will lower him in the grave and ask forgiveness for him. Yeah, you can have people like that. You can have people like that. But then he says, ثُمَّ يَرْجِعُ كُلُّهُ. However, all these people that they love are going to return and go back. Your mate who's with you when he's ill, if you die, he's not going to be there for you anymore. Your mate or your brother or your cousin, whoever's close to you, lowered you in your grave, he's going to go back. He's not going to stay in a grave with you, he's going to go back. ثُمَّ يَرْجِعُ كُلُّهُ. All of them are going to go back. وَيَتْرُكُهُ فَرِيدًا وَحِيدًا. They're going to leave you by yourself. They're going to leave you by yourself. They're not going to stay with you all the time. وَلَا يَدْخُلُ مَعَهُ فِي قَبْرِهِ. And they're not going to stay with you in your grave. Then he says, then Shaqiq al-Balkhi, he says, فَتَفَكَّرْتُ. Then I thought about it. I thought about this issue. Everyone loves someone. And they like someone. Everyone's close to someone. They're going to be with them except at the grave, when we're only going to be by ourselves in the grave. So he goes, فَتَفَكَّرْتُ. So I thought about it. وَقُلْتُ. And I came to a conclusion. What was his conclusion? He says, أَفْضَلُ مَحْبُوبِ الْمَرْءِ مَا يَدْخُلُ مَعَهُ فِي قَبْرِهِ. He goes, the best and most beloved thing to a person should be that thing which can go with him into the grave. The thing that should be most beloved and dear to a person should be that thing that can go with him to the grave. وَيُؤْنَسُ فِيهِ. And it will be close to him in his grave. Then he says, فَمَا وَجَدْتُهُ غَيْرَ أَعْمَالٍ صَالِحًا. He says, I thought about it long and hard, and I realized, I come to the realization that only your good deeds are going to be with you in your grave. Only your good deeds are going to be with you in your grave. فَأَخَذْتُهَا مَحْبُوبَةً لِي. So I took أعمال صالحة as something beloved to me, and I tried to do a lot of good deeds in my life. لِتَكُونَ لِي سِرَاجًا فِي قَبْرِهِ. So that this good action can become a light, a lamp for me in my grave. It will light my grave up like a lamp does in the dark. وَتُؤْنِسُنِي. And it will be close to me. وَلَا تَتْرُكُنِي وَحِيدًا or farida. It will not leave me by myself in my grave. A'mal salihah, good actions. This is what the ultimate advice is. To do good actions, to do good deeds. That's the only thing that's going to be with us in our graves. That's the only thing that's going to come with us and be close to us and protect us in our graves. Nothing else will. Nothing else will. So what can some of this good action be? Learning Islamic knowledge. Learning Islamic knowledge. Learn the deen. We have to learn the deen. We have to study our aqidah. We have to study halal and haram, our ahkam, our rulings, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. Study fiqh. You know, things like that. Study the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Study his seerah mutahara, his wonderful, noble life. To think about death, to ponder over our actions, that they're going to have consequences. Everything we do, Allah is watching us. He's going to count us. If we do good, He'll give us ajr by His rahmah. If we do bad, He may punish us. He may forgive us, but He will punish us. To think about our actions. What are we doing? What are we doing? To carry the da'wah. Make the invitation to Islam. Take the da'wah to the community, to our family, to our friends. Keeping good company. Keeping good company. Who are the people we're hanging around with? Are they taking us to the khair, to something good, or are they taking us to something bad? Finally, valuing our youth time. Our youth, our time as youth, as young people. Before we get older, and our legs and hands start to creak. Our body starts to creak, it gets more difficult. While we're young, to use it. To use the ability and the strength that Allah has given us. So these are some of the actions we can do. A'mal salihah that we can do. That will accompany us, inshaAllah, with us in our grave and light up our graves with light. Like from a lamp. And not leave us. Just as Shaykh al-Balkhi said, he thought about what people like. People like a lot of things. But how many people like doing good actions? How many people like doing good actions? You know, so that on Allah, we're going to meet with Allah and nothing's going to benefit us on that day. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. You're going to, on that day, nothing is going to help you. Your children, your wealth, anything you own is not going to help you. إِلَّا مَنْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Except with someone who comes to Allah with a sound heart. Meaning he'll try to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, live with His commands in his life. Try to live by that, internally and externally, inwardly and outwardly. أقول هذا القول أستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والغفور الرحيم.